Okay, at this time, we'll call the City of Oshkosh Planning Commission meeting for September 21st to order. And Mark, I believe you had an introduction to do.
Yeah, real quick before we get started, did want to introduce a new Planning Commission member to everyone today. Meredith, and I hope I pronounced your last name right. Sherman is joining us. She was appointed last week. She is appointed in one of the alternate roles, which it does look like you will be voting tonight, Meredith. So just wanted to quickly welcome you to the Plan Commission.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
All right, John,
Okay.
back to you.
Okay, thanks, Mark, and welcome to the Planning Commission, Meredith. And with that, let's call the roll.
Mr. Grove? Mr. Kiefer?
Here.
Mr. Mitchell?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Ms. Shearman?
Here.
Mr. Marshall? Mr. Coulibaly?
Here.
Ms. Davy?
Here.
Councilmember Ford?
Here.
Ms. Prop?
Here.
Chairperson Hins?
Present.
All right, just very quickly before we get started, a couple of things with the virtual meetings. We do ask that everyone keep themselves muted during the meeting and unmute yourself when you are called on to speak. We do use the raised hand feature within WebEx to call on people to speak. Two ways you can find that feature. The first is if you open your participant list, hover over your own name, you should see a little icon that says raised hand. Alternative, if you're on the main Brady Bunch screen, you should see a smiley face at the bottom. You click that smiley face, a group of options will come up. One of them will say raise hand. Just makes the meeting go a little bit smoother. We do not use the chat for any discussion or answering of questions. All right, John, take it away.
Okay, with that, I think motion and a second to approve the minutes from last meeting.
A motion to approve the minutes of last meeting. Kiefer.
Second, Davy.
Seeing as back on virtual work, we have to do this as a roll call vote again.
Yes, we do.
Okay, well, please call the roll.
Go ahead, Hannah. You got it.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Ms. Shearman?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hins?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, without getting a total or anything, I know it was unanimous. That will go to item number 1 on the it's of tax increment financing district number 41, Smith School redevelopment designation of boundaries and approval of project plan. Were there any site inspections? If there were, please raise your virtual hand.
I do not see any. Oh, Mr. Mitchell, did you raise your hand? Mr. Mitchell and Mr. Hintz, it looks like, for site inspections. Thank you.
Okay, we accept the staff report as part of the record. Turn it over to city staff.
Thank you. This one will be me today. As we've done a number of times in the past, we do have a TID district coming before Plan Commission. Plan Commission is one of 3 entities that do have to review and approve a TID. As just a quick reminder, Plan Commission's role in this is to look at this through the lens of zoning, land use, and the comprehensive plan and other plans we have in the city, and judging this or whether it's consistent with our documents that we've been provided. I'm going to go through quickly the staff report and some comments on the TID plan, and then Mr. Taves and Ms. Nyforth are available to chime in if we need them as well. So TID 41, or the Smith School redevelopment, is an approximately 2.66 acre in need of a rehabilitation and conservation district. And most of Plan Commission should be familiar with this site, as we have done the plan development approval for it previously this year. The applicant is proposing to construct 31 1- and 2-bedroom affordable units on the site, along with 44 garage spaces that would be obviously consistent with the previously approved SIP for the property. The city is anticipating approximately $1.65 million to undertake the projects identified within the project plan. Those include about $1.48 million as PAYGO TIF, and another about $165,000 in administrative costs. On this TID, the developer is proposing to monetize that TIF for a value of about $760,000. The project plan, starting on page 16, does list out those improvements, along with the typical economic feasibility study listed on page 24 of the project plan. The city is anticipating total improvement value of about $2.05 million for an overall value of about $2.4 million upon project completion. The applicant is planning on investing approximately $7.75 million overall in the project, and they're using a number of funding sources besides TIF, as we have discussed in the past, some WIA tax credits, historic preservation tax credits, and they can kind of enumerate on the little floor, but about total investment in the project is about $7.75 million to bring it up to completion. As I mentioned, we did previously do SIP approval on this project earlier this year. If approved, the applicant would be anticipating completion of the project in 2022. Based on the MRO within the TID plan, located on page 29, we are looking at about a year 2050 completion, which would constitute the entire 27-year statutory allowance for the TID, at which time the approximately $2.4 million would be returned to the tax rolls. This is in need of rehabilitation conservation TIF, based on the historic nature of the school and conservation of that building, and the fact that it's outlived its existing use of a school. Some of those existing conditions to be found on pages 12 and 13 of your TID plan. Finally, this is scored through the city scoring matrix for TIDs, and this project achieves 70 points for the city's conservation and rehabilitation scoring matrix, which exceeds the minimum 50 points required. In terms of zoning consistency with plans, this is zoned IPD, so the zoning is consistent with the desired land use as outlined within the TID. It does start to also touch on the creative and diverse housing options as identified within the city's comp plan, so it would be consistent with the comp plan. And then finally, as we are undertaking our current comprehensive housing analysis, we have identified the additional need for affordable housing in the city. And although that plan has not been finalized, this project would represent some of the things that are kind of the early recommendations coming out of that plan. With that being said, Mr. Taves, Ms. Nyforth, any additional comments for me?
I'm happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
So just on the screen now for you, I do have kind of the site plan that was approved through Plan Commission. So again, this is consistent with what we had previously seen. With no other comments then, staff is recommending approval of the TID 41 boundary and project plan.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and we'll come to the commission for our technical questions. Anyone, please use the raise hand feature.
I do not see any, John.
Okay, not seeing any technical questions from the commission. Well, if there's any public that's here to speak on this item, this would be your time. If you can use the raise hand feature, you can. If you don't have that, if you're using your phone or something, just speak out. We'll try to catch you and get you up here because we want everybody who's here from the public to speak.
It does look like Mr. Mitchell may have a technical question. Sorry, I didn't see his hand in time.
Okay, good, thank you. Just a quick question about what we all are willing or what we usually will include in our TIF packages, I guess. Does the city ever add any sort of job training element to it? Not necessarily that the developer is responsible for, but within that district where funds can be used to, I don't know, train, in this case, train maybe unemployed or underemployed individuals in the construction trade, landscaping trade, any of the number of different tasks that are going along with this development. It looks like it's a normal part of TIF programming that they have specific sections guiding on how to use it for job training. I'm wondering if we do any of that.
Can't think of one where we've done job training. We have done job creation metrics in our TIDs before, but I cannot recall a job training element prior.
Got it. Maybe something to look into. The other one that I had was we look at these for improvements of neighborhoods, and oftentimes I see that we fund just the development itself and expect that that single development is going to improve the entire neighborhood, where we then omit all of the neighboring and adjoining properties. It looks like you can utilize TIF financing to provide either below market rate loans or even grants to neighboring properties if part of the provision of your project is to improve a neighborhood. Do we ever look at doing something like that? There's many adjoining properties here that maybe could benefit.
Yep, we really do that depending on the nature of the TID and the financings available in it. We did include a bunch of projects in the Oshkosh Avenue TID stuff for stabilization of that neighborhood, as that TID was expected to generate enough increment to fund those. In the situation here with the TIF school, it's looking like we're going to need the full 27 years to pay off the obligations of just the project. So we wouldn't be able to include any of those additional projects because there wouldn't be enough increment generated to do that. But yes, we have done some of those housing initiatives. You can only spend TID dollars for projects within, and Mr. Taves, correct me if I'm wrong, a half mile around the creation of the TID. So there are some parameters that go along with the ability to create programs like that. But yes, we have done it in TIDs.
Great, and I appreciate that follow-up. And this maybe isn't the best example, right? You can envision, though, a project where it's in a very dilapidated neighborhood, and you put a beautiful facility and then ignore all of the dilapidated housing around that. It would be counterproductive, but I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other technical questions?
No, it looks like we've been ready to go back to public comment.
Okay, now we will be closing the technical question part and go to the public, and it looks like someone has their hand up here, Mark.
Yeah, they may have public comments. I believe we would want to start with the applicant first. I don't know if Monica's part of the applicant group or just has a question.
I'm a resident in the area. I live on Minnesota Street. I'm just curious, is this going to raise my taxes?
No, it would not.
Okay, thank you.
Then I guess why don't we go to, looks like Mr. Wiesenberg.
Well, unfortunately, while I'm on Mr. Wiesenberg's computer, you're getting Mr. Hess today. So yeah, my name is Tim Hess. I live at 2645 Templeton Place. I'm one of the owners until this thing gets completed. I'm happy to address any questions that you guys got. I know there were a few questions that were posed to me kind of ahead of time that I'd like to talk about a little bit. One of the questions that people came up with was, why are we now going to low income housing when before we were talking about market rate? And in large respect, that is kind of a question of timing. When we initially bought this building back in December of 2019, we were hoping to get this started probably by the spring of this year. And the pandemic substantially slowed down the historic preservation review process. I can say last week we got the final approval from the National Park Service for the plans that we have here. So we are ready to roll. But really what that did is in terms of the 4 partners that were involved, we had kind of plotted out what we were looking to invest in the next couple of years. And that delay made it where, quite honestly, Chet and I had a different project come up that we were interested in doing. And Andy and Cal came back to us and said, well, gee, now that we've worked through the Cabrini process, we could come back and potentially do this as low income. And, we'd like that as an opportunity, so we were happy to do it. So in the grand scheme of things, why are we doing it? It's really a question of timing. What does that change in terms of the plan? Well, not a whole lot. In terms of the site plan, virtually nothing. In the inside of the building, so this is going to be low income housing. We're going to be using low income housing tax credits through WIDA. And so that imposed upon us a fair amount more accessibility considerations. So, in terms of what it would change in the drawings, well, okay, now we've got a publicly accessible restroom in there. 50% of all of the units have to be visitable. Now, if we were doing new construction with WIDA, it would have to be 100%, but they appreciate it's a historic building and the Historical Society isn't going to let us rip open a bunch of the historic doors there. So we're at 50% there. Other things that changed are making sure that the bathrooms have the full radius turning for handicap accessibility in there. The kitchens, where we had the islands, we had to move those out a little further for full accessibility kind of thing. So in the grand scheme of things, it's the exact same project, but the WIDA is asking us to do more accessibility, and we're happy to do it. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of where we're at, and happy to ask or answer any questions that you guys have.
Looks like I see Miss Prop.
Yes. You talk about low income, and we go around and around about that all the time. And we've been told that low income by Oshkosh standards is not really that low. Can you tell me what these would potentially rent for?
Certainly. So, the rent is going to be based off of their income. And this, as a 4% deal, we are allowed to do income averaging. And so we can look at whether it's, so the maximum income range that would be allowable for these projects is 60% of the community median income. These guys are targeting for an average of somewhere between 50 and 60%, but we anticipate maybe some 40%. So if somebody comes in at 40% of the median income, a 1-bedroom would be, what is it, 528, a 2-bedroom would be 636, and a 3-bedroom would be 739. And what that does is it makes sure that somebody who's coming in, that the maximum amount that they are spending for their housing is going to be 30% of their income. And so the actual limit could be a little more in terms of what their total housing expense is, but they would be paying utilities too. And so then we have to factor that out of the rent. Where on the high end, if somebody came in at exactly the 60% community median income, now you're talking that could be up to $872 for a 1-bedroom, or I'm sorry, $775 for a 1-bedroom, $933 for a 2-bedroom, and $1,083 for a 3-bedroom. So hopefully that explains where we're at.
Yeah, it does. It's the fact that the rent is based on income in the way you talked about it. I understand. Of course, those of us that have been working with lower income folks know that $775 is still a massive rent. But that's another story for another time. That's all I have.
And I see Mr. Mitchell as well.
Thank you. Are you going to be doing the full building as a qualified income unit, or are you just segregating part of the building?
All 31 units.
Awesome. And then is there a program that you're partnering with to close the gap between, say, their income-based rent and then like the market rate rent?
I'm sorry, could you
Sure. So if you let's say you have a full slate of folks that are hanging around the 30 to 40% CMI, and your rents that you're collecting are very, very low. Are you participating with another program that is, say, closing that gap? Say your market rate is 900, tenant rent is 300. They're filling in that gap with the extra 600.
honestly, that portion of it, I myself don't know. That would be, Cal is the expert on this.
Yeah, well, let me ask you differently. Are there other programs that you're partnering with as part of this development?
The way that we have it posed right now, everything is just through WIDA. So they're giving us the exceptional financing. They are the ones that, so by exceptional, I mean far more than, normally on a bank, it's 80% loan to value. These guys are giving us like 130% loan to value. They are financing or monetizing the TIF. We are looking at using the federal home program dollars from the Department of Administration. But as far as I know, everything is more on the upfront side, getting the project built, and not necessarily additional programming on the back end side, helping people to get it done. And again, that portion of it is not my expertise.
Sure. One follow-up then on that. I don't think the city currently requires this for their projects, but it's something to consider, and I'm guessing that your answer will be yes. But if an applicant comes in with a housing choice voucher awarded, say by the Housing Authority, is that something then that you guys would accept?
My understanding is we have to. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't, but I know that some developments are not in favor of vouchers.
We're meeting all the standards anyways, and all the validating and checking that this is up to standard. So I can't fathom why we wouldn't.
Absolutely. Great. Oh, this is wonderful news, and I'm happy to see this. There is a major gap in the community. A lot of times, as you're aware, the LIHTC projects don't necessarily serve the folks maybe at an affordable rent rate, and the notion sometimes that there may be some opposition to the notion of affordable housing, but this is a paraprofessional working in the school district. Somebody who's processing your checks at the bank. These are folks that are working oftentimes that have service jobs that are important for the community, and they also need an affordable place to live. So I commend you guys for this.
And it appears Miss Davy.
Thank you, Mark. I just wanted to, partially, I'm echoing Justin's thoughts, I think. There are many of us on this group, I'm sure, that realize how important affordable housing is in Oshkosh. And I am thrilled that between timing and potential financing for this project, that we're able to bring 31 units to Oshkosh. I think that is fantastic and greatly needed, and thank you.
Okay, do we have anyone else who has any questions for the developer?
Or any other public comment?
Okay, not seeing any. Is there anybody else from the public that's here that would like to speak on this item? Again, if you can't raise your hand, if you don't have that option, speak up and we'll acknowledge you. Okay, it doesn't look like we have anybody else from the public here to say anything. If the applicant has a closing statement they'd like to make, now would be the time.
Oh, just that we are excited to do this, and we appreciate everyone's enthusiasm and support on it.
Excuse me. Excuse me, I have a question.
Ma'am, could you state your name and your address for the record, and then you can go ahead.
Ma'am, are you still there? If you could just state your name and your address for the record and then go ahead. Ma'am? We may have lost her.
We might have lost her. We give just a couple seconds here, just in case she pops back in here. I'll just waste a little bit of time
Hello,
talking.
can you hear me now?
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Ma'am, yes. Yes, we can hear you now. If you just state your
Okay.
name and address for the record and go ahead with your question.
Okay, my name is Sue Volkman. That's under Jeff and Sue Volkman. And our address is 1752 Oregon Street. That's the house that we have there. Okay.
Yep, go ahead with your comments.
Okay, the question I have is, maybe I missed this in the beginning, I'm not sure, but you say the proposed project improvements may include, and then there's different things. One of them that you listed was the acquisition of property. Is that property beyond the school building?
As of right now, there's no other anticipated property acquisition as part of this project.
Okay, and then my other question is, not too long ago, we had sidewalks and that put in there. It's also listed though for proposed project improvements. Is that something that you're still considering?
Mr. Taves or Ms. Knapworth, are you familiar? I don't recall anything for that in the project plan.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was the question? I couldn't quite understand.
Okay, where it says the proposed project improvements, that's in the letter that we received here this week. It states something such as new sidewalks and street improvements. And not too long ago, we had those taken care of. So is that something
Sure.
that you're still considering?
Or
Or are those improvements for around the school itself?
it would just be through the school. Yeah, no, we know that you guys just had the reconstruction, so it would not be for the private owners outside of the district.
Okay. Okay. And then one last question here. I'm just want to make sure I'm clear on this paragraph. It says that facade rehabilitation and building site improvement grants or loans may be provided to the properties within the district. So does that mean if there's something around our properties that we would like to improve, there are grants and loans available to do so, or is that going to be a requirement to do so?
No, as we discussed a little earlier, and I'm sorry you weren't didn't hear it. As part of this TID, there is no additional programming being proposed.
Okay. Okay, that's perfect. That's what my question was. Thank you so very much.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Now try one more time. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak on this item? Okay, not seeing anybody. I'll bring it back to the commission and accept a motion in a second.
Make a motion to adopt the recommendations and findings as stated in the staff report. This is Justin.
Second, Ford.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. If anybody has anything they would like to say, raise your hand and we'll get to you in order.
I don't see any, John.
Okay, well, then seeing as nobody has anything to say, as the one person who's here today who lives in the neighborhood that this is going on, and someone who went to that school, whose parents went to that school, whose aunts, uncles, and cousins, and brother and everything else went to that school. It's great to see that it's going to be rehabilitated and it's going to stick around in the neighborhood, and it's going to do good things for good people. And I just, again, I know I say this a lot, but it's great seeing local developers putting back into Oshkosh and helping, especially with these historical buildings like this. So thanks again to the developers, everybody else who's participating in making this happen, and hopefully we can see more of this around the city. And if nobody else has anything to say, let's call the roll.
Mr. Kiefer,
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly,
Aye.
Ms. Davy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ford,
Aye.
Ms. Prop,
Aye.
Mr. Hintz. Mr. Hintz?
Aye.
There we go. Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to item number 2. It's a conditional use permit request for a personal storage facility at 1222 West South Park Avenue. Were there any site inspections? Raise your hand if you went, you looked at it.
If you could leave them up for just a second. Thank you very much.
Okay, we accept the staff report as part of the record, and I will turn it over to whomever from city staff is presenting it.
Thank you. So the subject site is located on the north side of West South Park Avenue. It's about 4.5 acres in size. Surrounding area is predominantly residential, as well as the quarry to the north. The site currently has existing industrial buildings, which is Oshkosh Plating, as well as a commercial building and associated gravel parking areas. The property is zoned heavy industrial. So the applicant is proposing to construct 3 personal storage facility buildings on the property, totaling 110 storage units. And the personal storage facility requires a conditional use permit in the heavy industrial district. So here's the site plan. It had been discussed at Plan Commission workshops on 2 occasions this past summer. The revised one at the second meeting is similar to what's shown here, with a future commercial use fronting West South Park Ave, and then the storage units towards the rear of the site. Plan Commission voiced support for that, as they would be maintaining that front area along South Park for commercial. So staff is supportive of the personal storage facility use, with the condition that the lot area fronting West South Park Avenue is maintained and reserved for future commercial development. And that would be consistent with the South Park Corridor Land Use Plan, which allows for commercial and office uses. So the site will be accessed from West South Park Avenue with one 30-foot wide driveway. And then they will be paving existing gravel areas, as well as new areas for access to the storage buildings. Here's the landscape plan. They are meeting landscape requirements for building foundations, street frontage, and paved areas. There's also a buffer yard requirement along the east property line. And they're meeting that with providing evergreen trees, along with 6-foot solid fencing, and meeting a 10-foot setback along that east property line. So they're meeting that buffer yard along those residentially zoned properties. They did provide conceptual elevations for the buildings. They're showing non-decorative metal panels being used in all facades, along with EFIS, which is a Class 2 material, at 15% of those facades. And that would meet the building facade requirements for industrial buildings, which requires that buildings using non-decorative metal panels be enhanced on all elevations with a Class 1 or Class 2 material. And staff will review the finalized plans as part of site plan review. And with that, staff recommends approval of the and there's a lighting plan too, which is meeting our lighting standards. However, it does show that possibly along the West South Park Ave frontage, they may be exceeding the lighting level, and that's something we can take a closer look at as part of site plan review. But again, they're meeting those parking requirements for lighting. So staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit request with the findings and conditions listed in your staff report.
And just one brief comment to add on to what Brian has said. Obviously, this is workshop twice through Plan Commission. So it's, appreciate the applicants taking the time, meeting with Plan Commission over a number of meetings to work through this project and hopefully come to a project that we can support.
Okay, thanks, Brian and Mark. And with that, we'll come to the commission for technical questions.
I see Ms. Prout.
Yes, will the driveway from South Park be on the same site as the current driveway?
Yes, it does include a combined access for the existing buildings as well as the future commercial development.
Okay, great. And I thought there are a number of nice large arborvitae and other trees. I think just to the left of that driveway. Will those stay for right now?
Yeah, the applicant, the last we discussed, is proposing to leave as much of the vegetation on the front side of the site as possible while the parking lot and storage building improvements are made. Obviously, when the future tenant is found for that site, we will have to look at landscaping and what modifications may need to be made at that time.
Okay, one last question.
As much as possible.
Oh, excuse me. One last question. I thought I read in the staff report that the fencing in the front yard would have to be reduced to 4 feet to meet code from the 6 feet. Did I read that correctly? On the east side?
Yep, that'd just be within the front setback area. It needs to be reduced to 4 feet tall and 50% visibility. And then once it meets the setback, then it goes up to the 6 foot tall and solid.
Yeah. So if
how far along on that east side is that? How far?
Yes. So if you can see my pointer, hopefully this goes through on WebEx. Somebody
Yes.
nod if you can see it. This is essentially where the 4 feet would stop, and then headed back would all be 6 feet. Only this small section here between the property line and this front required setback would need to be the 4 feet. Everything after that could be the 6 foot.
Okay, good. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the commission?
I do not. So, Mr. Coulibaly.
How tall are the buildings on the left?
The existing structures?
Yes.
I believe the front building is only a single-story structure. The structures to the rear of the site behind the homes, off the top of my head, I do not recall. The applicant may be able to help fill us in there.
I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm trying to find it in reactions, but oh, there it is.
Yeah. Are you with the applicant, sir?
Yeah, I'm Jesse Hall. I'm the general contractor for the project.
Yep. Give us just a moment. When we finish technical questions, then we'll have you come up and talk, okay?
Oh, I thought that's what you wanted. Sorry.
Just a second. We'll get to you. Any other technical questions, John?
Any other technical questions? I have one, but I'm just letting everybody else go first. But I'm not seeing anybody else raising their hand. So I don't know, maybe I'm not seeing it on here. Was there any signage that was going to be out along South Park Avenue to let people know about this, and how high and what was it looking like? I didn't.
So I don't believe any signage was included in the submittal. Right now, they have no freestanding signage on the front of the site. I take that back. There may be one small sign. That being said, anything that is proposed will need to be code compliant. So for this district, I think they're looking at 100 square feet of total sign area. This actually might be list. Brian, can you double check that the site might be large enough for 200? These districts, total allowed signage is based on square footage of the lot. So they would have to be code compliant. As part of a conditional use permit, we cannot make any modifications to allowed signage.
Oh, and I was just, I didn't know, maybe I was missing it, or if you know, if it wasn't included, I just wanted to make sure that we had at least it out there, seeing as it wasn't visible on this. Does anybody else have any technical questions while we're still here? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone else, so we will move to the public comment, and at this time now we can have the applicant come in and feel free to answer the question right away. Just
As far as the building heights, I don't know for sure, but I guess it's probably a 12 to 14-foot tall structure, and the current buildings, they're not very tall. They're only single story, but they're manufacturing. And then the landscaping up front, I mean, it's a struggle between ripping it out and planting what's on the plan, or leaving what's there and obstructing the site. I guess I'll leave the direction of that up to you guys to tell me what to do. And there was no signage planned in this submittal, and I don't know if he plans on putting signage out, so.
okay, thank you. And is there anybody from the public that's here that would like to speak on this item? If you are here, feel free to use the raise hand option, and if you can't use it, speak up and we will get you on here.
I do not see any others, John.
Okay, not seeing anyone from the public. If the applicant would like to make a closing statement, this would be the time for that.
I guess one other thing about the before we close the stating, the buildings not the coverage on the buildings, we were instructed it's 15% on all sides, but the space between the doors and the open metal panel didn't equate to 15%. So we thought it would be a good compromise to put the ends of the building where there's no doors and do 100% coverage to try and offset the fact that we couldn't get 15% because of the space being covered up in the doors. There's just not enough metal panel there, so we did 100% EIFS on the ends to try and appease the requirements. And I just want to thank you guys for working through this and hopefully making this possible.
Okay, I think we'll go back to the Plan Commission now for a motion and a second.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report. Rob?
Second, Mamadou.
Okay, it's been said the way I think say it. Now I'm seeing hands coming up already. Looks like Justin, you were first.
Thank you. Can you go back to the aerial shot where it would show the, I guess, the site layout? So when I look at that, just to be clear, there's the existing buildings, the driveway, and then the 3 added storage facilities. So those are all, that's all going to be impervious surface then, correct? And then if they develop that future, you know, that frontage lot, that also would be impervious surface. Is that feasible? Like I don't want to come into an issue where they've put this this installation in, and then by adding that additional building, they're going to be exceeding the impervious surface requirements.
Yep, it's one of the elements we did discuss with them to make sure there was sufficient room. Our HI district, and Brian, correct me if you can get it before I can, has a maximum allowed impervious surface ratio of 70%. So they do have some area, kind of that northwest corner, we'll call it, where the pond is going, west property line, front yard. So they will, obviously, as that future development comes forward, need to make sure overall on the site 30% green space is preserved.
Thanks.
Councilmember Ford, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question for Mark, based on something that the applicant said. Just to be clear, if they do want to do signage, they'll have to come back, correct?
No, as a conditional use permit, as long as the signage was code compliant, they would not have to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commission members have anything to say on this item? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to echo what's been said by the applicant and by city staff. I think this is one of those situations where we actually worked in tandem really well with the workshop, and he started out with something that most of the members didn't really like, and now we've come around to something that actually works for most of us. At least it did at the last workshop. We haven't had the vote yet, so I might be getting ahead of myself a little bit, but it's great to see this. It's great to see this working, because we're trying to make things, better for developers, make it a little easier for them in the city, try to, remove that stigma that we've had in the city, and it's great to see this going on. So with that said, let's call the roll.
Mr. Kiefer?
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Chairperson Hintz?
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
We move on to item number 3 on our agenda. It's a specific implementation plan amendment for canopy additions at 3855 South Washburn Street. It's Camping World. Anybody who was out and did site inspections, please raise your hand.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we accept the staff report as part of the record. I will turn it over to city staff.
Thank you. So the subject site is located at the northwest corner of South Washburn Street and West Ripple Avenue. In May of this year, Common Council approved a GDP and SIP for commercial development on the site, which is Camping World. So the applicant has submitted a revised elevations and site plan versus what was approved as part of the SIP. And the only change to those plans is canopies on the north and south sides of the building, kind of towards the rear of the building. And those canopies will be over service bay doors, again, both on the north and south sides of the building. The canopies will be constructed of metal and attached to the building. They'll be about 120 feet long by 40 feet wide, covering the area over the service bay doors. So here are the elevations shown. So those canopies do kind of change the view of the elevations, especially from the east and the west, as you can see here. So the canopies, again, will be constructed of metal panels, which will match the approved exterior materials from the SIP. So staff does not see concerns with the canopies being added, as those materials are consistent with the previously approved building design and should not negatively affect the appearance of the facades. But again, had to come forward as it was a change to the approved plans. So staff is recommending approval of the SIP amendments as proposed for the canopies.
Brian, the technical questions from the Plan Commission.
I do not see any, John.
Okay, any technical questions to public comment? And if the applicant is here, if you would like to make a statement, this would be your time.
I know we have a number of individuals from the applicant. Mr. Walters, anyone have any comments?
Hi, this is Chris Walters with DBS Group. We've been working with Camping World and with the city of Oshkosh for the better part of a year on this project now. So no specific comments other than that the modifications to the SIP are really more of just a timing and us finalizing our construction documents for this project. So available to answer any questions and appreciate the Plan Commission's consideration.
Okay, just check first if there's anybody from the public here that wants to speak this item. Now your chance. Again, if can't use the raise hand option, just speak up and we'll do our best to get you on here.
Not seeing any.
Okay, not seeing any of them. The question, any questions? What we have here? Okay, not seeing any questions. If the applicant would like to make a closing statement, close public comment, this would be your opportunity.
Doesn't look like it. We should be good for a motion.
Okay, bring back to the motion for a motion in a second.
I move to adopt the finding recommendation as stated in the staff report.
Second, Rob.
Motion in a second. Any discussionists from the commission?
Not seeing any.
Okay, not seeing any. Let's call the roll.
Mr. Kiefer.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Perry.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Mr. Kulabali.
Aye.
Miss Davy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ford.
Aye.
Miss Prop.
Aye.
Chairperson Hintz. Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, and now we'll move to the planning director's report. Mark, turn it over to you.
Just one quick item for you today. If you remember several, maybe 2 or so months back when we had moved back to in-person meetings, we had needed to move our October 19th Plan Commission meeting due to scheduling conflicts with rooms and availability. At that time, we chose to move the meeting to October 20th. Now that we are back in the virtual setting, we wanted to discuss with Plan Commission if they would like to go back to our regularly scheduled October 19th time. We have a little bit of time here where we can still make that change because we have not sent out notices. So I just wanted to get some feedback from this commission if they'd rather kind of stick with their normal Tuesday 4 p.m. meeting time instead of moving it to Wednesday.
I would like to keep it on the 19th or move it to keep it on the Tuesday. This is Kiefer.
But aye, Kathy.
I see most people nodding their heads.
Me too.
How about we have everybody raise their hands who wants to move it to the night or to the Tuesday on the 19th?
Looks pretty unanimous. Everybody wants to keep it on the 19th where we typically would. So with that being said, kind of move it on your calendars back to the 19th. I know that may mean Mr. Ford or Councilmember Ford may not make it, but we'll stick with the 19th then for ease of timing. All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, nothing else on the agenda. I will accept a motion for adjournment.
Move adjournment, Kathy.
Second, Kiefer.
Okay, it's been moved second because we're back in the virtual world. We need to do a roll call.
Yep. Mr. Kiefer,
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Perry,
Aye.
Miss Sherman, excuse me,
Aye.
Mr. Marshall,
Aye.
Mr. Hintz. I'm going out of order. Sorry. Miss Prop,
Aye.
Mr. Coulibaly,
Aye.
Miss Davy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ford.
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned.